Hi, thanks for checking out the channel. I thought I'd start out with doing something new. So I want to start a series now where I kind of read stories from various places on the internet, such as Reddit, maybe 4chan, and just places like that. And today's story is from Reddit r/LetsNotMeet, posted by the Demon Queen Luna. I have been given permission by all the authors of these stories, so please look in the description below for the link to their stories on Reddit and check it out. Thanks. I was stalked for months by a guy who worked at my local grocery store. This happened about 4 years ago. I was 20 at the time. The first time I met the guy who would become my grocery store stalker. He was standing outside the store collecting money for the Salvation Army, Christmas donations. I'm a fairly friendly person, so I like to say hi to people who work at places I frequent to be nice. This guy was a kid around my age, very tall, with a mild resemblance to Lurch from the Addams Family. Dark circles under dark eyes, short black hair, kind of vacant look in his eyes. I chatted with him for maybe 2 minutes, just idle chit-chat about the weather and whatnot. Nothing particularly memorable or interesting. And then waved goodbye and went home. Little did I know that single moment would be the start of something that would have me genuinely afraid. About 4 or 5 months passed, and I hadn't seen him again. Then one day, as I was grocery shopping with a friend, when as we were chatting, she suddenly got quiet and kind of recoiled backwards, looking behind me. I turned around to see this guy, who had to be at least 6'4", towering over me, not 8 inches from my body. He said hi, and told me he remembered me from that December I had talked to him, and then asked for my number. I, being young, having experienced this type of interaction before, told him I don't have my number memorized, but that I would write his down and text him later. I kind of half waved my phone at him, pointing out my at the time boyfriend, whose picture was my wallpaper, making a point to say, "Oh look, that's my boyfriend," to the guy, hoping he would clue in, but no luck. He told me his number, which immediately upon getting, I blocked, without letting him get my phone number. However, what really made my blood run cold was what he said after. I put my phone away. He leaned in real close, and in a low voice he told me, "Whatever I text you is for your eyes only." At this point, I started to feel genuinely uncomfortable. I said, "Yeah, sure, nice talking to you, but we got to get back to shopping." And I grabbed my friend and dragged her off, shooting a panicked look at her and asked why she didn't bail me out. Apparently, he scared her too, with getting so close to me, and she didn't know what to do. I want to make it clear. I'm not exactly a small girl, 5'8", and solidly built. I can certainly handle myself, and I very rarely feel intimidated or small in presence of anyone, male or female. But this guy made me feel tiny and scared. In the months that would follow, he would make me feel truly frightened. I'd hoped that creepy interaction would be the last time I saw him, but that was unfortunately not the case. After the initial meeting with him saying that creepy thing about his text being for my eyes only, it seemed like I would run into him every single time that I got to the store. No matter what checkout lane I was in, he always seemed to appear the end of it when I finished shopping, and every time I was in the store, I would notice him coming out of the corner of my eye watching me, no matter what area I was in. One time, I even caught him carrying out to my car. At that point, I got scared and decided to say something to the managers. After letting the managers know what was going on, they assured me that they would tell him not to talk to me. After that, he wouldn't speak to me, but I would continue to see him following me around the store at a distance every time that I went up there. It got so bad, and I felt so frightened that I started to be afraid to go to the store at all. But I am one of those stubborn people who refuse to be intimidated by someone to the point where I'll stop doing something. I had hoped that maybe it was a coincidence that he was following me. After all, it was a big store, and maybe he just had things to do that just happened to be in the area I was shopping in. So I started to pay close attention to my surroundings. Once I started really paying attention, I realized that every single time I was up there, I would consistently notice him in the areas of the store I was in. During my last encounter with him, I went up to the store to grab just 2 or 3 items I needed for dinner that night. And I first saw him standing outside the store when I got there. And with his back to me, I quickly ran inside, hoping he didn't notice me. Unfortunately, a few minutes later, I saw him at the very back of the store and items in hand. I immediately made a beeline towards the front. As soon as I got near the checkout, I ducked behind one of the shelf displays and watched carefully at the front of the store to see if CC would appear. And he did. I watched as he looked up and down the checkout, and when he didn't see me there, I saw him step outside. At this point, I quickly ran into the nearest open cashier, rang out my items, and stuck my head out the door to look for him. I didn't see him there immediately, so I started trying to make my way back to where I was parked. I had parked a ways away near the side of the store, where a bunch of other small stores and restaurants were lined up. And as I was walking towards the car, I realized I saw him, standing by the entrance that I had first entered the store through, and ducked behind a pillar immediately. Hoping he didn't see me, I watched carefully behind the pillar, and as he scanned the parking lot, he obviously couldn't find me. After a minute or two, he started to walk out towards the direction of the parking lot in front of the store. And so I took the opportunity to make a run for it to my car. As soon as he was far away, that I felt safe. As soon as I got into my car, I locked the doors. And to my horror, when I looked up, he was standing there about 15 feet from my car with a shopping cart. In front of him, I knew he followed me. He knew I knew. I fully believed he had chased after me, and when I made it to my car, he grabbed the nearest cart to make it look like he was collecting them from the parking lot. I remember just feeling absolutely terrified at the moment. I went home and immediately told my grandfather what had happened. I began crying and shaking, and my grandfather told me to get in the car. We were going to settle this. He and I drove up to the store in his car and walked me into the store and demanded we spoke with the managers immediately, both of them. When the managers arrived at customer service, he asked me to tell them what had been happening and demanded them to ensure he left me alone or that he would involve the police. The managers swore up and down they would take care of it. As far as I know, he wasn't fired immediately because my friend who first encountered him with me when the whole thing began told that she would see him from time to time when she was there by herself, but that any time I went with her, she would never see him. I fully believed he knew wherever I was. Only this time, instead of stalking me, he avoided me. Eventually, everyone who knew the situation stopped seeing him there. So I think he may have gotten fired or moved from that store. Either way, I hadn't had an issue since. But I have never in my life felt so afraid for another human being as I did that day, seeing him make eye contact with me in the parking lot as I locked my car doors. It still creeps me out to think he was watching me so closely every time I entered the store that he could so easily avoid or follow me whenever he wanted. So to the guy who stalked me every time I went to the grocery shopping for 4 months straight, let's never meet again.